And I think for all of you, there are many areas where there's leverage available in the world, where one or two people, a good idea, a lot of hard work can really make a difference. There's many, many things like that. And it's good not to forget that, but it's good to look for those things. Google's mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. And one of the things that surprised me, that's a very broad mission. It's a lot of work. We're not going to achieve it anytime soon, right? It's almost an impossible task. But it's an exciting task, and one that you can get other people excited about, and they can help you. And one of the things that also surprised me is it's sometimes easier to do something that's harder because other people get excited about it, and you can get much more resource. You can get tremendous resources to solve a hard problem, whereas you might only get minor resources to solve a small problem. A lot of times my issue is people are not setting goals that will be something that somebody who becomes rich or could do anything. You got to be excited about working on that for 10 years. So you got to have a big enough goal that you attract the best people and you retain them and you keep them focused. And then in my experience, you don't go wrong. Maybe you don't hit it next year, or maybe you fail entirely and you discover something more exciting to work on with the same set of people. So I'm going to switch gears and talk really briefly about entrepreneurship. So I'll try to give you some of the things I think are really important that other people won't tell you or won't stress as much. And one of those is really just don't settle. It's very, very, very important if you're starting a company to have the right people involved. And I can't stress that enough. I've been enormously happy with people we've had involved at Google with my co-founder and with Eric. And we took a long time to find these people, actually. I've been working with Sergey for a really long time, but Eric took us over a year to hire Eric. And just generally, having great people involved that you really like and that are compatible with you and all those things is tremendously important. And you're never going to question the equity you gave up or any of the other things. So I can't stress that enough. The other thing I think we really benefited from is being real experts. We worked on Google for many years at Stanford before we started the company. And that was a pretty nice position to be in. We understood sort of all aspects of search. We talked to all the search companies for many years. We really knew a lot about what was going on. And you can do that pretty cheaply, right? It's just your labor, right? You can invest a year or 2 or 3 years and really learn something very, very well before you start having hundreds of people working on the problem. Through as a student was some leadership training, and one of the things they taught us was to not be afraid of failure, and instead to have the goal to fail a lot quickly, and then eventually you'll succeed. And I sort of took this to heart, and they also had a slogan called "Healthy Disregard for the Impossible." And they actually made you write down sort of the things you would do that were kind of impossible, but you thought you might really accomplish. And that's really stuck with me in everything that I've tried to do. And I think, it was very, very close that we wouldn't have started the company. And I think there are many of you out there in sort of similar situations. Do you want to take a little bit more risk? Do you want to try something out? And, even if you don't succeed, we actually tried many things that didn't work. Google happened to work pretty well. But there are many things that we did that didn't, but we don't worry about those, right? Because we tried many things. So I just encourage you to take a little more risk in life, and I think if you do it often enough, they will really pay off. Anything you can imagine probably is doable, right? You just have to imagine it and work on it. And things that we thought were almost impossible. So we were interested in machine translation. There are services on the web. We had licensed one that could translate between different languages. And obviously for search, if the information's not in your language, we can't find it for you. And most information's not in your language, right? This is sort of by definition. And so we thought, well, it'd be great if we could provide search results from any language for any query. And so we really focused on that problem. And we focused on it and we developed Google Translate. And we found some machine learning researchers, and we said, do you think you can translate, between any languages and do it better than an average human translator? And they laughed at us. They said, no, we can't possibly do that, but they actually were willing to try. And 6 years later, we can translate between 64 languages. And it's amazing, actually. We're better, many languages we're better than an average human translating. We can do it instantly and for free. And between those 64 languages, we can translate between any two of the languages. So we have something like 4,000 languages we can translate between. And so I'm just trying to give you, I guess I'm tremendously optimistic that whatever things we try to challenge, whatever challenges we try to take on, we can solve with a little bit of concerted effort and some good technology. And I think that's a really exciting place to be in the world. So I think we want more people working on it. We want to have more ambitious goals. And I think with that, we could easily double kind of human progress and the rate at which we're developing. Recently, I reorganized a bit to focus on product areas. And I think, in any company as it grows, if the company's not static, which it shouldn't be, as it grows and it changes, you need to reorganize it. And just the question is, are you keeping ahead of that? And looking at our business is pretty complicated. We have all these different products. We have advertising, we have search, we have Chrome, we have Android, we have YouTube, and so on. And those things are actually relatively different, have different things going on. So I think, I kind of moved that up a level in the company and made sure that we were super focused in each of those areas on what our user experience was. And I think that's helped. But just generally, as you switch to a company, as we got more offices, as we got time zone differences, we had to change how we did our meetings, change how we do our employee communications, and so on. So I just think, in a technology business growing rapidly, you just need to make sure you're changing everything. You're being responsive to that change and changing everything, every year, or else you're just not keeping up with it. Yeah, I talked a little bit about focusing the company. And, I think that I want to talk a little bit about making some big bets. And, we always try to concentrate on the long term, what we're doing for the long term. And, I think that, many of the things we started up that are really big now, like Chrome, were seen as kind of crazy when we launched them. And so how do we decide what to do? How do we decide what's really important to work on? Well, I like to call the toothbrush test. So the toothbrush test is, do you use it as often as you use your toothbrush? And for most people, I guess that's twice a day. Raise your hand. Twice a day? Yeah. Okay, most people. So I think, we really want things like that. And I think things like Gmail, obviously, use much more than twice a day. And YouTube, I think that those things are amazing. And I think that, we look at things like YouTube, people thought, oh, you guys are never going to make money with that. You bought it for $1.4 billion. You're totally crazy. And we were reasonably crazy, but it was a good bet. We've actually been doubling revenue every year on YouTube for 4 years. And actually, if you're doubling things, it starts to add up pretty quickly, even no matter where you start from. So I think that's a good example of how sort of our philosophy is that we see things that people use a lot, that are gonna be really important to them, and we think that usually you can make money from those things over time. A well-run technology business can be monetized over time.